All right, so good evening, everybody. Welcome to the book club. And today we have a session with an author who is joining us herself and will be in conversation with Latika Padgaonkar about her 3 books. So Sharayu Sumanwar is here and we welcome her. Now, just a word about Gyan Adab and the book club. The book club is almost 20 years old. And when I tell people that, they are amazed, that we have managed to continue this for this long. And I am thrilled that we have got the right kind of response to enable us to continue. So thank you everyone who has been a member of the book club in all these 20 years. More than 5 years ago, we became a part of Gyan Adab. And Gyan Adab is this wonderful literature and culture center, which, Farooq Merchant is here. He's the man behind Gyan Adab. And Satish and I are founder members of the managing committee. So we have seen the birth of Gyan Adab and the growth of Gyan Adab and what Gyan Adab has done and meant. So what I want to mention here today is that the book club has always said that, of course, we like discussing books, but we love having authors themselves coming to talk to us. For lovers of books, it's a treat to talk to the author. So today is such a treat. And what Gyan Adab has done is, it has not only facilitated meetings of the book club and concerts and dance evenings and whatnot, but it has encouraged these creative artists. It has encouraged them, it has given them a platform, it has handled workshops, for poetry writing and so on. So it has been a very constructive medium for creative artists. And we have had a number of artists coming there. Now, as far as the book club goes, we are, as I said, very happy to have authors coming to talk to us themselves. But we're even more proud when members of the book club write, publish, and there have been these instances, and we have always very proudly tried to showcase them. So we have had Nani Rao, Shesh Rao, Mala Rihan, Jayashri Dhilan, Rita Chablani, Shehnaz Setna, Charna Banerjee. These are all members of the book club who used to come, who do come to discuss books, and then they wrote and they got published. So we have been very proud of them. Today, I want to say that we're adding one more name to this list, and that is Satish. Satish has published his book of plays, and it is just out. So I want to just show you what it looks like. So this is an image of the book and an inside page. The book is out, it's available on Amazon and Flipkart as a paperback and will soon be available in the ebook format. So I do hope some of you will look out for it. Okay, so now we go on to today's business of the day, which is discussing Sharayu's 3 books. Now, Latika is going to be handling this event. So Latika, over to you.
Thank you, Mohini. Good evening, everybody.
Let everyone besides these two shut off their mics.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Sharayu, a friend of long standing. I'm delighted to be talking to you about your book. I think everyone knows from the invitation that has been sent to us that Sharayu is an army daughter and an army wife. She has studied economics in Lady Shri Ram College in Delhi. And for 27 years, she was in the banking sector, both in India and outside India. After she retired, she was a consultant with CII. So she's turned the corner and taken a very different line now. She's written 3 books over the past 15 years. 2 of these books, Shaurya and Unlocked, are novels, romantic novels, and we will talk about these 2 novels to begin with. The third one, which I want to concentrate on because it's about someone very important to all of us in India, is called The Silent Film, Dadasaheb Phalke, 1870-1944. This is on Dhundiraj Govind Phalke, who is best known as the father of Indian cinema. This book really needed meticulous and concentrated research because Phalke's debut film now is regarded as the first wholly Indian made film. That was way back in 1913, and it is also India's first full length feature film. So, before we actually turn to the novels which we will talk about to begin with, I just want to ask Sharayu something very simple. How did you go from the world of numbers to the world of words? How did you go from being a banker to being, going into love and desire and storytelling and so on? What was the transition?
Well, I suppose I started with my love for books to start with. I've always been very, very fond of reading, and destiny led me to be a banker. But finally, when I decided to retire because my husband was posted in a difficult place and I couldn't continue with the banking anymore, in Ladakh, I was requested by the Army Wives Welfare Association to write a short something, contribute something to the magazine, our magazine. And that is when I thought to myself, I said, what can I write when there are body bags coming in from the glacier? And, uh, actually every day I used to hear my husband talking about somebody dying, somebody needing to be consoled, families had to be told, bad news had to be broken. So my first book actually started as a prologue. It was a short story I wrote for the Ava magazine, and it was immediately appreciated. And then it was after I got a response from people that they liked that story that I realized that I could, in fact, write, uh, communicate through this medium with people. That is how this book started, which was my first book, Shaurya. It is about army life. It is about the angst of an army widow, how she has to struggle and rebuild her life, as it were. And particularly the army circles and even outside it, I think it was much appreciated. And that is how my journey began, that I could write. Then after I wrote this book, I also had retired from banking, and I thought of my great grand uncle. So I came to research Dadasaheb Phalke, and I wrote that book. That too was released at the time of the Phalke Film Awards and 100 Years of Cinema. So the government of India, in fact, released it at the Phalke Film Awards. Uh, we staged a play on that book also at the film festival, at the International Film Festival in Goa, and thereafter at City Fort in Delhi also. So I was encouraged, and then there was a hiatus. I didn't write for quite a few 7-8 years. But last year, when we were stuck in COVID at home with the COVID lockdown, I wrote Unlocked, which is a romance at the time of. Uh, uh, I mean, in the period of Corona and this pandemic, which confined people to homes, and unusual situations arose because we had to depend on the health workers and all that. So this book is about, the latest one is about this situation, and sort of it's a contemporary romance novel. I always believe in writing feel good books, so they always have happy endings. But I believe that the scenarios are very Indian, and that is why I like to stick to that, and uh, situations which are more socially related to our circumstances.
Okay, so Sharayu, what I'd like to do is to take these two novels, one which was written before Dadasaheb Phalke, one which was written just last year.
Okay.
And I have found that there are certain similarities in these two novels, which I will speak about. And if there's anybody else who may have read one or both the books and would like to make a comment on them or ask a question, they're free to do so. So let me tell you what I found by way of similarity. I was wondering whether you'd carried your earlier imagination forward to your second book. See, what I found that in both your books, the protagonists are rich, successful businessmen. They're single, they're handsome, they're tall, they're good looking, they're suave, they're sophisticated. And I dare say they're even a little careful.
Mhm.
Now, they live abroad. One lives in the US and one lives in Belgium. But they do come to India because they have family interests here and business interests here. The female protagonists are located here. Okay, both are widows. One is a war widow, one is not a war widow. The other one is who's not a war widow, comes from a really very modest background, and she has lost her husband earlier, and the war widow has also lost her husband. So they're both widows. One has 3 children, one has 1 daughter. Now both these women are working. They are both strong. At the same time, they are vulnerable to social requirements. They have a fairly traditional mothers-in-law. And in the first instance, the female protagonist called Vidya, who's the wife of the army man who was not there any longer, Vidya's mother-in-law actually helps her out of a situation towards the end of the book, and she gets married. Of course, they both get married at the end and then they go abroad. Now, one has some bond with the army, the other one does not have any bond with the army at all. The connect is that they're both love stories. But there is also a social environment which makes these widows take steps forward quite hesitantly. You know, they can't go ahead as quickly as the men can go ahead. They don't express themselves, the men, but they know they can go ahead, they can wait any length of time. But the widows are a little slower in moving ahead. And yet they're quite sure of what they want. Perhaps the women are also sure, but they feel a sense of duty and looking out, going by social norms. So is this a correct reading of your 2 books? The kind of connections I found in them.
Well, I'm very flattered, Latika, that you analyzed the book in that way. I mean, you've obviously put a lot of thought into reading it. I think I just had fun writing them, and I just felt happy to write a book in which women have gone forward and found happiness, and not. And there have been guys who have, met them and all that. So they were not very. They were not meant to be very serious reading, but I think they were happy books, and they did reflect our. They were realistic in a way, I feel. Of course, I'm the author, so it's for the reader to judge, but many readers have appreciated. So that's what I can say about it.
Okay. So the first book is quite short, actually.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
I don't know how many pages it is. I don't have it with me here,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's a short book. The other one is double that length. If
Yeah.
anyone has read it and wishes to ask any questions, they're free to do so. They are books of romance, of overcoming hurdles and finally finding happiness and sense of liberation.
Yeah.
That's how it is. If anyone has a question, otherwise I'll ask one question. No? In the first book, you actually, the man and the woman who are feeling so close but are hesitating to come together, you actually had one child, the woman's child. He got into an accident and lost his leg. And only then did the woman turn to the man. I thought that was a little, she was hesitating too much to get his help.
Well,
Yeah.
it's,
Anyway,
I
that's
just,
my reading of it.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'd like to give more time to Dadasaheb Phalke because he is the father of Indian cinema. The
Sure.
greatest award for cinema is named after Dadasaheb Phalke. This was established in 1969, and it's to do with anything connected with cinema. It could be an actor, it could be a director, it could be a singer, a musician, anybody, a script writer, and so on, story writer. Now, what comes across, first of all, in your book is your great admiration for a personality who in every way was truly, truly amazing. And as you speak, you can talk about why I say he's amazing, not just because he was the father of Indian cinema, but truly multi-talented and practically a genius, So I hope some of our questions will bring that out. There is a connect with him as far as you are concerned. Can you show what family relation you have with him, Dadasaheb Phalke?
Sure. My great-grandfather, whom we call Bapu, his real name was Shivram. He was Dadasaheb's oldest brother. And in fact, for most of Dadasaheb's adult life, he was the father figure in his life. He nurtured him as a teenager, and he encouraged him as a young man and supported him till the day he died, almost like a son. That is, this was my great grandfather. So my Dada Saheb actually is my great grand uncle. And in those days, in the early 19th century, the families were joint families, and the Phalke family was very closely connected. There were only two brothers, surviving brothers, and they and their families lived together for most of their lives. And well, that was how it was. This is my relation with Dadasaheb
Yeah,
Phalke.
very close relationship, if you will.
Yeah.
You have been supplied with, or you have uncovered for yourself a lot of material that allows you to trace not just Dadasaheb Phalke's career, but his personal and family life. And we will talk about his personal life first, and then we'll talk about his professional life. So you found a lot of sources. Now, what were these sources? And how much of your book is based on these sources, these facts, whether they were written or just told to you, and how much of it is fictional recreation?
Well, the book is totally factual. I mean, all the facts, the relationships, everything is factual. For continuity, I had to elaborate certain events. For example, conversations are imagined. Some emotions have been my perceptions of what might have been Dada Saheb's feelings when he faced the great hurdles in his life, because his life was, there were great ups, downs, many struggles, because that was there was a time of the Second World War, the First World War, then the Second World War, which he faced, the famine earlier on when he was younger, the 1895, 97 famine, the plague. He went through lots and lots of things. So the facts were there. He did lose his first wife. He lost his three earlier daughters. So family, as far as his life is concerned, full of tragedy as well as great success also. So actually, it's a very factual book. The conversation, as I said, I mean, since you asked this question, only the conversations are sometimes imagined,
Mhm.
and the emotions that the husband and wife feel for each other, I have added a little bit. But certainly his wife and he, the second wife whom he married, Saraswati, who was his long-term love also, a lot of Dada Saheb was a prolific writer. So it has been sourced from interviews he himself has given to Marathi magazines, and the NFAI was in fact a great source. Apart from, of course, family anecdotes which we grew up with, even when we were very young. My grandmother, we always knew that we belonged to. I mean, Dada Saheb Phalke was a family, but as is the nature of youth, you don't always pay attention to what is closest to you when you're in your teen years. But later, when I researched the book, we could sort of glean all the facts from family members,
Mhm.
the personal side
Yeah.
of Phalke. Yeah.
Dadasaheb Phalke's family, his father especially, he came from a very orthodox family, didn't he? Now,
Yes.
his father was a Sanskrit scholar. He
Yeah.
was born in Bakeshwar in near Nashik.
Yes.
And thereafter, I think his father got a job to teach Sanskrit in Mumbai. So later on, they moved to Mumbai. So
Yes.
father used to perform ritual ceremonies and so on.
Yeah.
And Dada Sahib himself learned from his father how
Yes.
to himself become a priest practically. But
Yeah.
some kind of change came over him
Yeah.
at a certain moment in his life when they were in Mumbai. They had
Yeah.
moved to Mumbai and he saw an exhibition by Raja Ravi Verma. Can
Yeah.
you tell us what happened to him at that time?
Actually, Dadasaheb Phalke's father, who was Govind Phalke,
Yeah.
he was a priest. He even performed kirtans and all that. But he was more than that. He was a Sanskrit scholar. So he was always invited to uh, Banaras, Bombay, this that, for the study of Sanskrit and the Vedas. When Dada Saheb became a teenager, his dad decided that, well, it's good to move to Mumbai because that was a place of opportunity, and he had this young son who had to be. Well, Trimbakeshwar was not exactly the place where Dada Saheb could study further. So Dada Saheb's father was invited by Wilson College to teach Sanskrit by the priests. I mean, those there were fathers there in Vincent College at that time by the English fathers to teach Sanskrit there. So that's how he moved there. And then that is how he went to Mumbai. When he was in Mumbai, he was sort of exposed to many very cosmopolitan cultures. So he learned Gujarati there. He learned to, it was a westernized culture in Mumbai as compared to Nasik. So besides his grounding in Sanskrit, which was always there, and the influences of his childhood, when he came to Mumbai, he uh, I mean, till the age of 17, he was there, 16, 17, when and then his father returned to Trimbakeshwar, but Dadasaheb continued there. One day, the Raja Ravi Verma, he went for one of his exhibitions, and somehow he met, he saw Ravi Verma from a distance, and he realized that, well, this is what he wanted to do. Probably um his creative whatever impulses were provoked by seeing those paintings there. That is what
Yeah, you
Dadas
yourself
painted
had said that
beautiful.
he suddenly felt that he should pursue beauty and creativity and
Yes,
art
yes.
instead of
And
carrying on the
like
way he was.
gradual, I think it was a teenage as he grew up, because in any case he was a scholar in Sanskrit. I mean, he knew the Ramayana, Mahabharata, virtually all those mantras and all the mythological stories by heart. I mean, and he was very good at everything. And his mother would encourage him to do rangolis. He would make very good things with his hand, even back home. So he always had this artistic inclination. He would make clay idols. He would make something with wood. So whatever it was, he was always a man very good with his hands.
Yeah, in fact, that's what I was going to comment on next. So what comes
Yeah,
out from your book for someone who may not know
yeah,
the background of Dadasaheb Phalke is that he
yeah,
was truly a multifaceted, multi-talented
yeah,
personality, multifaceted.
yeah,
And there were quite a lot of things at which he excelled. I mean, one would have imagined that, okay, he is the first filmmaker of India.
yeah,
So he put together a script, he put
yeah,
together a story, or
yeah,
he directed a film. But far from that, he actually did cinematography, he did acting, he did producing, he did painting, he did the painting of backdrops for his films.
yeah. He
He worked
actually,
with clay, modeling, sculpting.
yeah,
He wrote plays, he designed clothes, he
yeah.
did makeup for his artists. I mean, there was nothing he didn't do.
Really, it was just amazing. When I discovered all this,
Magic also, Sharayu, he was also a magician.
yeah, yeah. And not in that he had learned magic in Baroda from no less a person than a magician, only magician who was performing in the Maharaja of Baroda's court at that time. And Dada Saheb picked that up from him. I mean,
Ah.
I think he must have been a very charismatic personality, because he met many people, different kinds of people who were always ready to help him also. So,
Huh.
he was obviously a special guy. It really impressed me. That's why.
Yes, I mean, you have mentioned this, but it comes to me also. He was someone who actually faced a lot of personal tragedies, and personal means really personal,
Yes.
not just his brother and
Yeah,
father and mother, I can understand, but his wife,
yeah,
the
first wife. Yeah,
three daughters, children in the plague. I
yes,
mean, it's amazing. And
yeah,
then when he remarried
yeah,
Saraswati, the first daughter was Kamla, second
yeah,
daughter, third daughter, his first wife was Kamla, second daughter was Saraswati.
yes,
Even there he had a son Mahadev, and I
yeah,
think that son also died.
yeah. He died in Banaras when that.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so his life had a lot of tragedy,
yeah,
and then he was involved. Well, he faced famine in
yeah,
1897,
yeah.
but there were also moments of great ecstasy in his life. Somehow, his life seemed to swing from agony to ecstasy, and he faced it all.
But I think the ecstasy was in his the success of his creative pursuits. Because impressed by Ravi Verma, at that time, he joined the JJ School of Arts. And many people know the story of Raja Ravi Verma also. He had exhibitions, he was painting in Mumbai extensively at that time. And he was patronized by many of the royal families, amongst them, of course, the Baroda family. But Dada Saheb used to paint in Ravi Verma's studio also. while he was
Uh-huh.
in Mumbai. I mean, this is a little known fact, but this fact was brought out in a movie of Ravi Verma, which had come out a few years ago. Anyhow, there was a character of Dadasaheb was there in that painting. You know, the great artists always had junior artists painting nails and jewelry, and you know the beautiful borders of saris and all that you see in Ravi Verma painting. So Dadasaheb has painted that also actually at one point in his life, and he was with JJ School of Arts. And later, when he went with Bapu, that is my great grandfather, when he went to Baroda, to the court of the Maharaja of Baroda, that time he went to Kala Bhavan. So again, he studied photography in Kala Bhavan.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the opportunities also. So the ecstasy came. I think that was a continuous part of his persona, that there was always great joy. And later on, I think he did have very good break in life after. And I have to say that the plague, the famine was not his personal tragedies alone. That was a tragedy in India.
Yeah.
That was a historical tragedy for India.
Hmm.
But the ecstasy was there. But later in life, when well, he had to face disappointments in his career also after reaching the peak of it. That was the tragedy.
Yeah, you know, I was just when I went through your book, I
Yeah,
realized that he undertook many, many diverse activities,
many.
and not just that, but he was incessantly on the move. From Trimbakeshwar, he came to Mumbai, Bombay. From Bombay, he went to Baroda, Ratlam, back to Baroda, Godhra, back to Baroda, Lonavala, Jawhar, Mumbai, Nashik, Banaras, Nashik. Non-stop, he was on the move. Now,
Yeah.
what did this mean for his family? All the time uprooting yourself, children growing up with you, going to new schools, ordering your universe, going to another culture when you go
Yes.
up north and so on. So
Yeah.
it was quite difficult for the family too, wasn't it?
Very difficult for his immediate family, for his children particularly. They couldn't have a steady education, most of them. He did take them but he had them a little late in his life also. I mean that and he had a very large family. He had 8 or 9 children, of which the three boys um, later on they did suffer a little bit, but everybody settled down in due course. But that was a bit difficult for the family, I reckon. Yeah, really.
Sharayu, do you believe that given the way he was, the many things he handled, the
Yeah,
many places he lived in, and so on,
yeah,
that luck played an important role in his life too? For instance, someone helps him with a camera, someone helps him with food during days of shortage,
yeah,
someone helps him to raise money to go to England. He went to England twice. I told you how
yeah,
many places he went to. He also went to England, Germany, and so on.
yeah,
So
yeah.
people helped him to set up a company. Do you think luck also played a large role in his life? Or
Well,
was it all his own doing, his own personality?
no, I think he was a great genius. People recognized his genius and were ready to help him. My great grandfather certainly was in a steady job, so he was helping him all the time.
Hmm.
But Dada Saheb himself deserved that attention because he had a very good product. Even when he went to Navla, for example, uh, well, he was a great nationalist also. That was the first and
Yeah,
foremost
yeah,
driving
yeah.
force in his adult life. When he did take up a steady job with the government, with the Archaeological Survey of India, uh, he um, he was a fan of Lokmanya Tilak. So Tilak had given a call for Swadeshi. He said, now leave all government. And the government had said, if you follow any of this national struggle, are part of, the freedom movement, you have to leave your government jobs. That was the condition of the British government. So Dada Saheb chucked up his very good, well-paid job. Well, not very highly paid, but a good job with the Archaeological Survey of India. And he decided to start a printing press, and he went to Lonavala after that. So he was obviously talented at it. A Gujarati Sethji partnered him and sent him to England. So the reason he was sent to England was not because he was lucky, he deserved it because he was the only one who knew what kind of machines to buy, because he knew everything. He was very good with his, engineering skills also, actually. When you really study what all he did, he even did enamel plates later in his life. After retiring from cinema, he was even selling enamel goods.
Yeah, I
And,
have actually
yeah,
something of a list,
yeah,
which says that
really.
he started a lab and a photo studio in Baroda,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
an independent photo studio in Godhra, and
Yes.
printing and engraving works in Lonavala, which he sold. Then
Yeah,
Phalke engraving works,
yeah,
Phalke Film Company, which he dissolved. Then he set up
yeah.
the Hindustan Film Company. He did quite a lot of those. But
Sure.
he left and sometimes rejoined and sometimes moved ahead with something else. Yeah, uh, I wanted to ask you, apart from these highs and lows, financial and emotional and so on, did he have a good business sense? When you set up something and you do something and succeed and then you leave it and go somewhere else, did he have a good business sense?
He was very good at everything he did, but that was his greatest feeling, that he was too much of a perfectionist. I
Hmm.
That is my analysis of him. I never met him, but he wanted everything perfect, and he needed to plow more money into it. He wanted a better machine, he wanted a better film, he wanted better technology, all that, and he couldn't manage his money. And I think at some stage he could not even manage his business relationships very well,
Yeah, yeah,
because he was an artist first and last, and
yeah.
he was, I mean, he was given to his own sort of eccentricities, should we say.
Sharayu, if his seeing a Verma exhibition
Yeah.
changed his idea of the kind of career he should not go into
Yeah.
becoming a priest or
No,
something, but
because
taking some.
yeah, because his father was keen he should follow,
That's
because
right.
he's a clever
That's right.
boy, so he wanted
Now, a
to follow.
second turn comes in his life
Yeah.
when he sees this film called Life of Christ.
That,
And I have here a little something that he apparently wrote after watching Life of Christ.
yes.
And he says, I must have seen films on many occasions, but
Huh.
this film that day, that Saturday in Christmas, marked the beginning of a revolutionary change in my life.
Yes.
That day also marked the foundation in India of an industry which occupies the fifth place in the myriad of big and small professions that exist. While the life of Christ was rolling fast before my eyes, I was mentally visualizing the gods, Sri Krishna, Sri Ramchandra, their Gokul, their Ayodhya. Could
Yeah.
we, the sons of India, ever be able to see Indian images on the screen?
Yeah.
And I think that is what led him to think about a subject of his first film,
Yes.
which later on would, I mean, that kind of subject of mythology, which
Yeah.
would later on become a favorite subject of his throughout his
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was the first turning point in his life, where he actually realized his destiny, because nothing happens. I mean, he was a brilliant man, but to have to do, and there were films being made, Latika, at that time. It was not as if but they were not Indian films. They were the moving picture. It was a silent picture, but they were, as he saw this Jesus movie on Jesus Christ at Christmas. He had seen a lot of theater, a lot of plays. His wife Saraswati's family also belonged to a theatrical family. So he had experienced theater, but the fact that he wanted to make a film was a first for India.
Shri, isn't it also true that before him, there were people like Save Dada,
Yeah,
Patalekar,
yeah, yeah,
or Hiralal Sen, who
yeah.
were also making films. Now, film, the word films I put into quotes
Moving.
because,
Yeah.
these were moving images. They
Yes.
sometimes filmed theater.
Yeah.
So it was a theater performance which they filmed.
Yes.
Otherwise, they would go out into the streets of
Yeah.
Calcutta or Mumbai and film street scenes like, cockfight or people bathing in the river or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And those will become short films, which
Yeah.
will be shown together with the longer films
Yeah.
from Britain and other countries.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. They were being made, and I think all over the world, Pathé, Lumiere, all those were already making in American movies also. But France was first, I think, from 1895 onwards. The moving picture had started to take the world by storm. In fact, the camera, and then the moving camera. that the world was already seeing that, and it was a very exciting time for.
Actually, he went to England, didn't he, prior to making this film, and got a lot of
Yes.
photography equipment and camera and so on, and
But
projector.
he actually taught himself to film because he didn't have a lot of money. You see, with all this moving about, and it was a new medium. Nobody wanted to finance him, so it was with a toy camera that he actually made his first experiments in his own house. So it was a toy camera he bought in Bombay in Crawford Market, and he picked up clips of film. So that is all recorded. Since I'm not a photographer or a filmmaker, I can't. And those one block, one scene method. It was something that only a photographer can explain. But that is what he did, and he had to make a small film on the growth of a pea plant, which was actually almost the first science film made in India, because every day he would keep the camera in front of the plant, and it would be growing. And finally, at a studio, I think there was one Mr. Setna who had a studio in Bombay. He showed this film, and then that is how he could raise a little bit of finance for going. But he went abroad for buying this. Camera, and then finally could make the film.
Do you have any information about this first film? You mean the growth of a pea plant? That is probably the editing that he did, which allowed you to see
that
how a plant grew. Yeah. But Raja Harishchandra, the first film in India. Can you tell us something about it?
Well, Raja Harishchandra was made after he saw this film on Jesus Christ. That was, I think, Christmas of
2019.
Sorry, 1912 Christmas.
Yeah.
It took him 1 year to convince people to loan him some money. He read extensively from old film magazines and old photographic journals while he was there, and he worked on his own skills. He developed, tried to raise money. Finally, he could put together some money with the help of one Abasep Chitnis, who loaned him some money. He pledged his life insurance policy, and he was still short of money. Then, anyway, he went abroad and he bought the camera after he proved to his prospective investors that he could make a film. When he showed that pea plant, the growth of a pea plant, people believed, yes, that he could perhaps make a movie. So they gave him money to go abroad. He got the cameras, but still he was short of. It was a very exciting time for him because, but he was always short of money. He sold his wife's jewelry. Poor Saraswati had to practically, but he succeeded after that. I mean, he. 1 year later, he had the showing of Raja Harishchandra in the theater, and I mean, there were accolades for him. Yeah.
Sharayu, since we're mentioning Raja Harishchandra here, can we see the poster? Maybe we could ask Mohini to show us the poster of Raja Harishchandra and how Phalke actually edited and developed the film.
Yeah.
So, that was the Raja Harishchandra. Well, I didn't take two. I took only the English one. There was one in Marathi also.
Yeah.
And then we have one of Phalke developing the film.
Yeah.
Those years, 100 years ago or more now. And him editing the film also. That was him developing the film in the water. Yeah, that's right. And here he was actually looking at the entire film strip and exposed film.
This is a little later. This is his studio in Nasik. He later moved his studio. Phalke Films moved to Nasik.
Okay. But this is how he actually edited his work. Yeah. I just want to tell you that I've sort of underlined. Here is a bathing scene. Here is a bathing scene from Raja Harishchandra. It's interesting to show this one because maybe you can speak about this. The fact that there were no female actresses. I mean, there have no female actors now, as you say.
I know. He had to hunt down, and finally there was a young tea seller whom he saw who he dressed as. But it was common in those days for even because in theater also, women were not ready to act on the stage, or it was they were too shy to do that. But men impersonated. I mean, they put on women's clothes and acted. But here I find it very interesting because this water scene is repeated repeatedly even in later years in Hindi cinema. If you see this
Yeah,
scene, a lot of yeah,
yeah.
these
He
are all
even had underwater shots in this film.
yeah,
For a first film to have underwater shots is quite something. But
yeah,
this, as I said, when I read out what he had to say, why don't we have, instead of seeing only Jesus Christ, why don't we have Indian
yeah,
heroes and heroines of the past?
yeah,
But he himself was an extremely um, intensely patriotic person. Everything was Swadeshi, Swadeshi. Everything that he wanted to do was Swadeshi. Now, to begin with, this
yeah,
idea of Swadeshi and Harish Chandra probably meant that a lot of Indians would relate to this story, you know.
yeah,
But later on, the idea also probably meant, when he took mythological subjects,
yeah,
that there's a spirit of nationalism that
yeah.
could be generated through these films,
Yeah.
isn't it? Because the movement had started,
Mm.
our own
That's
nationalist movement had
in
started.
some of the movies there was, and you see these movies were silent films, but they were they did unite the people, and the colonial masters could not quite understand before they knew it. The movement and the unification of India had already started with the help of, with, I mean, of course, Gandhiji and all the national freedom fighters were there, but the medium of films helped this unification to a very great extent in that period of 25 years from 1913 till
Do you think that the various subjects that he chose, and
yeah,
you can
yeah.
talk
And
about them if you want?
in particular, it is said by film historians. I mean, I have written a bit about it in my book, that the movie which had Sri Krishna vanquishing
Sri Krishna Janam. Was it Sri Krishna
no,
Janam or
was about Sri Krishna Janma. This one was about Kalia.
Kalia Mardan? Huh.
Yeah, Kalia Mardan.
Huh.
So Kalia being vanquished, Kalia was the snake being vanquished. That movie had a lot of allegorical references to suppression and destruction of the suppressor. And that was, I believe, a bit, someone in the film world has analyzed it. I cannot quote it verbatim at this time, but there is in this movie, which is Kalia Madhava, and incidentally, this little girl here is Dadasaheb's own daughter, Latika.
Yeah, Mandakini.
All his children he used to act in movies. So
Yeah.
so this and this movie was very fantastic for its trick photography also.
Mm-hmm.
But the scenes, underwater scenes of Krishna fighting with sort of killing Kalia.
Huh. Look,
Kalia
here's a trick photography. I forget the name,
photography. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
this is how he was able to. He was able to generate a lot of interest. Did he start showing his films, as was the case then,
Yeah.
in tents, or did he go straight into studios?
No, they were
And
yeah.
theaters, not studios, theaters.
So theaters were available then. Gradually, the theaters became available, the Alexandra Theatre and all that. But I think those he took his films everywhere. He was his first few films he distributed himself. He there were no distributors at that time. There were no theaters, and people were just he had to. He took them to Chennai. He took them to Rangoon. He went all over India with his films. They became very popular.
So actually, it was like traveling cinema.
Yeah, traveling cinema everywhere.
And where would he show them if he went from one place to another? Where would he show these films?
He had a limited number of films at that time, so that was his handicap, and that is the reason why he wanted special machines. He went to England after making his first three movies. He went to England again.
Yeah.
Purchase film, but at that time, what had happened was the Second World War started. First World War started. In 1913, we had that. 1914 war was declared, and he was on his way to England at that time, and he had to offload himself in Alexandria, and somehow struggled to reach England. But London was also on blackouts and wartime, so he couldn't really succeed as much as he wanted. There was a lot of interest in London too with his films. They were acclaimed in the. So that was my source. This is all from the National Film Archive. Newspapers in England and here also have reported Dadasaheb's success in showing his films abroad. And that is
Sharayu, how many films did he make altogether? Feature films as well as shorts and documentaries or whatever you want to put it
100.
together.
I think
How
the
many? Over 100 films,
yeah,
didn't?
yeah,
Over 100 films.
yeah.
You know how many of them survive?
Some of them are with the National Film Archive. Some clips are there. I know
Yeah.
Chandra is there.
Sorry?
Some excerpts of Kalia Mardan is there.
Huh.
4 or 5 films are there in the National Film Archive. They have made one cassette of it, but they're all lost because you see he had to take on partners, and his partners took the films abroad. When the partnership dissolved for the one reason or the other, you all will have to read the whole book to
Understand how they got together and how they separated.
how they got lost and all that.
Yeah, yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, just by the way, since this happened only 2 days ago, day before yesterday,
Yeah.
I went to the Film and Television Institute of India
Yeah.
because there was a big function there,
Yeah.
and the army chief had come and so on. We were standing outside, and the television wing, right next to the television wing, on the wall outside, there's a huge painting of Dadasaheb Phalke.
Yeah.
His portrait. So I was quite heartened to see that as soon as we go there, we see
Really.
India's first filmmaker. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, his second wife, Saraswati, with whom he had 8, 9 children. I mean, very busy life, I must say, with all the movement to here to there. She not only looked after his family, but she looked after his production also. And also, you could talk a little bit about the kind of opulent house he had in Nashik, which she actually ran. How many people stayed there, and the entire company stayed there. So her role was quite considerable, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And she was with him all the way, shoulder to shoulder. And though there was, when she married, she was only 13 years old, but they were very devoted to each other right till the end of their days. And I must say that really she should have been appreciated more um, by the world at large, because you're right when you say that she managed the production, because she was literally looking after the whole unit. At that time there were 50 members of the unit, including the actors, the actresses, the cameramen, the spot boys. All of them would live together as a family, and besides the children she had to be with all of them. That was the
She played quite a role, even in the act, not just keeping this family together, but also in the production part of it. She kept it going, didn't she?
She helped him with the they had to the film reel, the film reels had to be perforated and all that. She used to help with that also.
Helped him that also.
Yeah.
And suddenly at one point in his life, I think it might have been after he made Raja Harishchandra, he went off to Banaras. Why did he go off to Banaras and start writing plays?
He decided to retire from films at that time because what happened was that, as usual, it was the he could not deal with partners who were only interested in money. His creative sort of passion couldn't bear the thought that he had to be on a budget. That was what his financiers wanted. They wanted only profit. So they said, okay, make so many movies in so many days and that sort of thing. He said, no, he just got fed up of all that. And he said, I would retire. So he went there. But unfortunately, the play he wrote was too high flying for the public at large. It was in 7 acts and was going to take 2 days to be put on stage and stuff like that. So that was what it was.
Well, Sharayu, I suppose someone would have been the father of Indian cinema before the arrival of Phalke on the stage. There was something it was called Bioscope at that time. And people from abroad who were exhibitors were coming to India and were taking their wares to different parts of the country and showing films from all parts of Europe and America and so on. And they were also training, like Hiralal Sen got trained as a photographer and also how to make small films.
Yeah.
But Phalke happened to be the one who actually made a feature film, and trained himself
Yeah.
and got all the material. So that is his greatness. That is his greatness.
And
But do you think
Yeah.
his first film, in spite of the fact that he was so talented, was in a sense theatrical? Facing the camera, frontal views, and so on. It didn't have a lot of movement as such. Would you
Yes.
say that? I mean,
Uh,
that was the first film. I'm not
yeah,
critical. I'm just observing.
I suppose so, but I think he couldn't have done better with his own limited resources.
Huh,
But it was totally an indigenous film, an indigenous subject,
huh,
and he had to do everything. So he said in his own articles, which for the interviews he gave, that they were spending like 100 times more, or maybe even 200 times more abroad for making these same short films which Dadasaheb made, and this could have financed what he spent on that film, which is totally indigenous, was could have financed a tea shop at most. These are
huh.
his words verbatim. He said, what I spent, I think at that time he spent about 25,000 in making that Harish Chandra. And he said it was whatever he did, it was marvelous. I mean, many people have admired it at that time, and it was such a great hit in India because they'd never seen their own people on screen before. Like
Right.
public at large, to see women in saris, to see their gods, to see this must have been so thrilling for the people at that time.
Were you able to see any? Because there are couple of slides still there, Setu Bandhan and all that. Were you able to see any footage of Setu Bandhan in NFAI or any of the other
I did
films?
see some. I saw quite a lot of it.
Yeah, we can just maybe ask her
Small
to show us a slide of Setu
If
Bandhan
you
or
see
any.
Setu Bandhan and if you see Raja Harishchandra, the filming in that was much, much better. Now,
Huh,
that was at the beginning what he had done, the strict photography.
huh.
Setu Bandhan, that was an outdoor
This
shots.
is Lanka Dahan is also there. Setu Bandhan is also there.
Yeah.
So, but
Lanka Dahan actually was a great commercial success.
I read somewhere, but correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
that Indian audiences who viewed
Yeah.
Indian films with Indian subjects were
Yeah.
very happy with what they were seeing. For instance, as I said, this frontal view
Yeah.
or the kind of pace Indian cinema had as compared to films from other. They were quite happy with this. After all, Indian audiences did see Trip to the Moon, Uncle Tom's Cabin, those kind of early films, The Great Train Robbery. They saw all that, but they were quite happy. They felt comfortable seeing these kind of subjects at this kind of pace, which they were used to through theater.
Yes, I'm sure it was. I've not got any inputs from those audiences, but it was a great thrill. I mean, I know of people who. I mean, this movie Shri Krishna Janma was running for 20 years in theaters.
20
After,
years.
yeah, in one theater or the other, it was showing, and even the audiences used to throw money at the screen and all that. So this is all part of the Indian. I mean, even today, movies are so popular. So you can imagine in those days when it was
Sharayu, who was the winner of the latest winner of the Dadasaheb Phalke Award?
who was he?
Which
Huh?
didn't Amitabh Bachchan win in 2 years ago or
Yeah,
3
yeah.
years ago?
All of them have got it. I think the latest one, kisko mila? I don't remember. I'm not
The
really.
first one was Devika Rani. That much I remember.
Okay.
He was the first one. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, he started an industry in this country. He was,
And
key figure.
industry would have come in any case, but he was literally, if he had not done it with his own resources and with all his hard work, it would have been at least another 20 years later that we started our film industry, because the
Well,
war, because in 1913 nobody would have been ready with a film at that time. It was not considered a very profitable proposition. I think it's only 1917 when Lanka Dahan became successful that other film producers came into the fray
mhm.
and decided, because it was all about money. In the end of the day, there was some talent, and seeing Dada Saheb's first movie, others also would have wanted to, but the war stalled that. And then you see the British were competing with India, right? I mean,
Yeah,
they didn't want Indian films to succeed. They wanted to display their own wares, right?
yeah,
Abroad
yeah.
like that. So who wanted to promote an Indian film industry? But Dadasaheb wanted to, so he did it.
When did he make his last film? I think he continued working till their late 30s because sound had already come
1937.
into,
Yeah.
sound had already arrived.
So he
But he
tried
didn't go towards sound. But he did try to put sound on one of his films, which wasn't very successful.
Gangavataran.
Gangavaran, that's right.
In
Yeah,
1937, that was his last film.
yeah.
Also 1937, 25 years of Indian cinema. They did their first Jubilee year that day. When Dadasaheb was there at that, Prithviraj Kapoor was on stage at that time. And
One thing that surprised me here is a man who is today regarded as a father, but even there, even then, he was the first filmmaker, and he made films through the 1910s and the 20s and so on. And in 1927, when there was an Indian Cinematograph Committee holding a meeting,
yeah,
they called him all the way from Pune to Delhi,
yeah.
and he gave them inputs. They asked him questions. He gave them inputs.
Yeah.
And later on, they didn't give him a license to make films. It's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Quite extraordinary. Yeah, but that was what we were, a colonial country, Latika, at that time. I mean, the British Raj, they could do anything. That is why he was, well, he was older then, and he almost died died after that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The license was refused. He wanted
License.
to make some scientific educational films. That was his last wish. He
Yeah,
wanted to make them, but
yeah,
the passion didn't leave him till the end.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Sharayu, thank you very much. From my side, I have sort of asked whatever questions I had in mind.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would, leave this open for anyone else to ask you questions.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. Sharayu, that was a very good presentation. Both of you, the conversation was very interesting. Liked it. But
Thank you.
what we like here is that there should be a conversation going on. That
Yeah.
makes whatever the film or book we are talking about very interesting. I'm going to first ask
Yeah.
Soni Valecha. Soni, are you there? Soni
Yes,
wants to make some comment. Yes, Soni, please. Go ahead.
Sharayu, did Dadasaheb face any discrimination because of the time, the period where acting and singing and dancing was not a very popular vocation, where there was a societal disapproval of this? Did he face any discrimination?
Not from the public at large at all, because Bombay, as you know, there was already theatre was very, but within the family, because our family was so orthodox that even my great grandfather, who was a Sanskrit scholar, and his dad, his father passed away before, but it was frowned upon that he should get into this profession. But when he made a success of it, then I think people were okay with it. But in the beginning, it was frowned upon by the Brahmin community at large, actually, because that time it was considered something which was not quite.
Request all of you to please unmute yourself. Please unmute and let us see. Let us have a look at your photos also. Okay. I think I will ask Jogrekar. Jogrekar, are you there? Jogrekar?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Is when Dadasaheb Phalke went to England,
Yes.
they offered him a job,
Yes.
a very high-paying job,
Yes.
which he refused,
Yes.
saying that he's not interested in making films in England.
Yes.
He's interested in making films in India for India.
Yes.
And now, and another question I have is,
Yeah.
did he act in any of the movies himself?
He almost wanted it because he was so desperate to
तो
get it.
नंबर we'll have to call him up again and किसको फोन करने
King
पुणे का कोई नंबर नहीं है.
Okay.
Hello.
My third question is, I heard stories that he even tried to make a camera. He and another colleague of his, because they wanted to start making cameras in India itself. I mean, was he successful or partially successful? Do you know anything about it?
I don't know. I never heard that he wanted to make a camera, but he used a toy camera to make a film, which I mentioned earlier in my chat with Latika, that the filming of the pea plant growing from a pod to a plant, to a pod, from a little seed to a pod, that was filmed by Dadasaheb on a toy camera. And he would even have in his own house, he would have the moving camera. I mean, not a camera. The first camera he had was a Williamson camera, which he had got second hand from Mumbai. That was his. But
Okay, that's all I have.
curious to know if you know if this is authentic, that he tried to make a camera. I have not.
I've read about it somewhere.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to confirm. Because there was another guy, like there was a studio in Pune. I don't remember which studio it was.
Okay.
And that is where they worked, and they were trying to manufacture or make a camera, indigenous camera. Now, how successful they were, I do not know. Okay,
this I have not heard, that he tried to make a camera. I have seen that.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Anil Kulkarni, you're there somewhere. I saw you.
Satish, can I chime in?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Mo.
So Latika and Sharayu, I really enjoyed that conversation very much. Very informative indeed. I was wondering, Sharayu, now you are the proud author of 3 books. Have you been finding that each book made you a better writer? Did you, feel more sort of fluent or empowered with your skill?
I don't know where that scene has gone. All this is so difficult.
Can I answer this, or
please answer?
Mohini, I don't know. I have never studied writing. I'm not a student of English literature. I just write what comes to my my heart, and I write in my mind. So I don't know whether I've become more fluent. I think I'm okay with. Maybe I should study creative writing. I don't know.
Okay, another thought.
I just write because I write. That's all.
Okay, another thought I had. Now, the silent film, has much information, and it's so close to you, because you are closely related. Yes. You must have strong feelings. I mean, it comes through in the book also, your pride in being connected with him. It struck me that, like you were telling Latika, that it's all very factual.
Yeah.
If you were to put your skill at writing fiction, apply it to fact, and what they call a fictionalized biography. Like you did say that this is very slightly fictionalized, where you have conversations and emotions and all that. But it strikes me that if you were to make a longer, more detailed, fictionalized biography, it could be a very, very interesting book.
It could be a film.
It could be a film. You bet. It could be.
I think you should work on that now. Try to make a film on Dadasaheb Phalke, or get someone to make one. You already have a.
If you make a film, you have to have a screenplay. As Dadasaheb said, this is a visual medium. There are 2 different mediums. When we write, though we also try to write. I mean, when I write, I don't like to be very verbose. I don't like very long passages. I mean, that's just my style of writing. I like a simple, straightforward style. But I think to write a screenplay will be a great challenge. I would love to, but I don't know whether
you could always ask someone else to
work
with someone else, because you've already got a play on it, isn't it?
Yes, we did do a play on it. And
can you tell us something about this play?
I would love to. There was a friend of mine who read this book. He was a colonel in the army, and he was a poet. So at one of my launches, he said, Sharayu, I'm going to have a conversation between Phalke and his wife based on this book, and we will launch the book like that. So we did that at the NFAI, and I think people liked it. Then thereafter, I translated this into English. And that was staged at the film festival in Goa, the international film festival in Goa.
She's not sleeping.
Ritika, please be quiet. Ritika, please don't talk.
Was it a dialogue between a husband and wife?
Yes. So
Play?
Saraswati Chandra and Saraswati Bai and Dadasaheb Phalke are in conversation about their life's journey, how they made the first film, what was their thing, and so that's it. So they were it, and then MS Saktyu had done the backdrops, and Government of India had requested us to uh, stage that at the International Film Festival, the 100 Years of Cinema. That was quite well received by even by foreign audiences. They had appreciated it because it was visual medium, not a written book. I suppose people find it tedious to read a whole book. So I love books, so I don't think anything replaces a book. But
you're talking to a group of book lovers.
I know.
I
I'm
know.
a book lover, so I think nothing like a book. But
Absolutely.
There's a gentleman
taking over.
One minute. There's a gentleman called Pundarik Dinkar Kudwa.
Okay.
First time he has come here,
Okay.
and I would like him to say something. What did you think of this
Kudwa attends
program?
all our book clubs. Mr. Kudwa attends all our book clubs.
Okay, Mr. Kudwa, we would like your word, please.
Well, I love attending your programs. I'm not able to read as much as I would be reading earlier when I was a college-going student. Now I'm a busy accountant and I hardly find time to read. But I love your sessions. I have loved all the sessions on those books.
Can I make a suggestion to you, Mr. Kudwa? Why
Yes.
don't you tell us about your favorite book?
Earlier.
And you can talk about it like you.
I think we had a talk on Atlas Shrugged, which I had read during my college days.
Done.
Then The Godfather.
Yes.
May I ask one question if no one else is asking?
1 minute. I'm just asking Mr. Kudwa. I'll be in touch with you. I would like you to present the book. So you have said Atlas Shrugged and which was the second one?
Godfather.
The Godfather.
Okay. I'm keeping them in mind and I will get in touch with you.
Satish Kudwa has been my chartered accountant since 1986.
Good show. I'm glad.
So we have got him in the scissors now.
Okay.
No, I would be able to talk more about his accounts than about literature at the moment.
Okay. I think Latika has some queries.
Yes, yes, I did. I wanted to ask Sharayu. She mentions in her book that Dadasaheb Phalke had paintings of Raja Ravi Verma, Durandhar, Bapurao painter. Whatever happened to these masterpieces? My goodness, that's the legacy of Indian art. What happened to them?
We don't know what happened to them. We didn't inherit any.
Too bad.
I think they were all put into the cause of Indian cinema, sold and put back.
Anil and Indu.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for you to speak.
Indu. It was the most enjoyable presentation, and whatever Moini said, that like Irving Stone wrote Agony and Ecstasy, and then it was made into a film. Something on the war situation and the way your experiences have gone. Possibly those books, then fiction and real life, would possibly give, fictionalized biography would give you a chance to make, they would be made into films possibly. That is a nice thought for you to, to work your creative skills to more novels which would come with your confidence. And Latika asked the most pertinent questions. So you were able to bring out the best points in the life of Dadasaheb, because we admire and his multifaceted genius. The man has so much passion and such a thirst for knowledge that if you want to do something very passionately, you can do it. Money and people and all will not stop you. Conventions and red tape and nothing should stand in the way, I suppose.
I have a small comment to make.
Okay.
All I knew about Dadasaheb Phalke was that he made the first film. That's about all I knew.
But the struggles.
And the number of aspects and facets that you have brought out, it's completely amazing. Now I'm going to read the book because I was completely fascinated by this person. And it is, who else can write about this but somebody down the line in the family.
In the family.
Because there is an attachment. And I keep talking about my grandmother and grandfather. So this is the right thing to do. Thank you very much. We enjoyed it tremendously.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. I think the last question, someone, Tazim, you've been keeping quiet for all these days. Tazim.
Yeah, I will. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, okay. What I want to say is,
on your video.
This is the first time that I realize how wonderful it must have been to be part of an active book club, which you must be doing when you were doing it. Because, I've been sitting only with the laptop, and most of the time it's a one-sided thing. Here was an actual discussion, and so much came out of the conversation. I was very fascinated. Thank you very much, Latika. And Sharayu.
You were there, Azim. You were there.
Yeah, I was there right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Every line. And by the way, the last one that was given to Rajnikant.
Was it
Look that up on Google when you asked that question.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
But this is it. Sharayu, we see the conversation that goes on afterwards is very important to us, and that's what makes it more interesting other than giving a lecture. So we encourage people to come and talk, and if you're written your own story, definitely it makes it more interesting. And there are people who have cried because of their stories, whatever what they were recounting here. So we've been running for nearly 20 years, and now it's going on. How many we have done this year, love? More?
I haven't counted.
I think something over 60 we must have done by now.
I think this is the 67th.
Wow.
Lockdown.
Congratulations.
67
talk after the pandemic started.
Yes.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Okay, more takeover.
Okay.
Mohini, may
Yes.
I say, I've been waiting actually, this is Rekha.
Rekha,
hi.
you had disappeared in the middle.
Yes, please.
No, I didn't disappear. I just switched devices. So I had to, therefore I disappeared.
Come.
Yes,
it was a wonderful, this is the first time I've attended, this kind of a discussion, and I really loved it. I loved the simplicity of the entire discussions and presentations. And I think what Sharayu said about the simplicity coming out in her books as well is so true. It's something that I'm just floored by the entire thing. And Sharayu, there's a small, should I say, from the audience's side, there's a request, Sharayu, for you, when you write your next book, could you think about a theme of, the first two that you wrote with Shaurya and as well as Unlock? They were romantic, beautiful novels. But can you think of a similar situation of a widow who goes on to make, because I've heard so much about the war widows standing on their own and, emerging as power women, okay, not necessarily, into the arms of another man, but standing on their own, and leading their lives and doing things for their children and so on. I'd love to see you write a simple book like this.
We'll do that.
Mohini, what about that lady, Maharashtrian lady, now Sari in London?
Oh, what about her?
Just tell about her a few minutes.
Well, this is Ajibai Banarse, who we met in London long ago when I was a little girl. She and her husband had come to London, and he died very soon afterwards. Now, she was a young, uneducated woman, even illiterate, by the way. And even when I met her, when she was an old woman, she was still illiterate. She hadn't become literate along the way. But rather than go back to India, she decided that she was going to make something of herself in England. And what she started doing was she set up a little lodging and boarding house. You know, she gave 2 rooms of her house to let to students. And she had a dining room so people could come and have meals, Indian meals, of course. And you know how it is, young students are always looking for ghar ka khana. And they got this ghar ka khana, you know, this homemade food at her place. And they came. And now she couldn't do the accounting. She didn't know how much she was spending. So these students who, you know, she was allowing lodging at a very low rate became like her children. She had no children. They became like her children. They did the accounting. They taught her, you know, how to deal with things. And she managed. So by the time I met her when I was 8 years old in the 60s, she was losing her memory, but she had this very grand house, by the way. So she had made a lot of money doing this very honest work of feeding young students and housing them.
And that is, like, I think that can be made into a nice movie also. More take over now and go ahead.
Right. So if there are no further questions, I think we'll round off the evening. I would like to thank Sharayu. Oh, Mukul has a question. Okay, come in, Mukul, quickly.
Come in, Mukul. I didn't see you.
Quickly, yes.
It's not a question, Sharayu. It's a comment, but this comment was to have come earlier when you didn't tell us that your books have not to be taken lightly. You know, in this book, Shaurya, what actually, all the time I thought, you know, after reading it, what it left with me was this lady was, you know, married outside her caste or her region, so to speak. And then you reinstated her very beautifully into her own caste, class, acceptable to everybody. So that is something that, you know, why did it have to be a Tamilian? I mean, you said take the book lightly. Okay. So I shouldn't be asking these questions, but yeah. But Latika has already said that these people have to be rich and single. Okay, that's fine. But you again put her back into the Tambram, you know, sort of thing. So that kind of amused me. Just
Telugu. Tambram.
I'm sorry?
He was with a Chettiar. Chettiars are not Tambram.
Okay. He was a Chettiar. All right. But yeah. So from the north, she moves to the south, acceptable. Yeah, okay. Just something I observed, you know. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for reading the book, Mukul. Thanks.
Go ahead, Mo.
But you know, it is interesting, Mukul. I will agree with you that it is interesting to see the choices that a writer makes. You know, it's all a matter of selection, isn't it?
Yeah.
What does the writer select? How is her heroine to be? How is the hero to be? You know, how do they get together? What are the values? So sometimes I can totally sympathize with Sharayu when she says she just wrote it, she was enjoying it, and maybe she was not all that self-conscious about the choices that she was making. But you know how it is, literature gets written and then critics and readers and analysts come along and we dissect the thing and find meaning where it might not have been intended and so on and so on.
We should said that right at the beginning, not to take it very
right. That's
seriously.
The name of the
That's
game.
Okay. So,
okay.
Yeah,
right.
That's all right. But
so,
just struck me.
Absolutely. So, well, thank you, Sharayu, for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
Loves having authors. We love talking to authors who tell us about their own books. And Latika, I am so glad I asked you to conduct this session because this in conversation with format works very well. And you did such a good job.
Thank you.
Wholehearted appreciation. This was a very wonderful session indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Now that you've done it so well, I think you're in line for some more, okay? All right. Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you, Farooq. Thank you.
Bye, Sharu. Bye, Sharayu. Bye.
And what is next show? Next one?
Yes. And thank you everyone who came, listened, asked questions, discussed, thought, and so on. Now, what is happening next Sunday? So next Sunday, it looks like Sudha Shastri will not be joining us with Midnight's Children. So I will be doing The Cherry Orchard by Anton Chekhov. And on the 22nd of August, we have Sanjay Phalke with his book by David Deutsch, The Beginning of Infinity. Now, that's a book about which I know nothing, and I am very, very curious. So I'm really waiting to find out. 29th August will bring us Sheena Shahani with The Takers and Keepers, right? And then we move into September. You've all got the calendar. Please keep track of the calendar and the dates, and do join us every Sunday.
Farooq wants to
Thank
say
you
something.
very much. Yes, over to
Farooq,
Farooq.
up to you.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. And I thank Latika and Sharayu for a wonderful program. Once now, I want to tell you about the programs that Gyanadab has lined up for you in the next few weeks. Next Saturday, we have the mega musical Pakiza, where we'll be, I'll show you some of what is there in the program, so you can get an idea what it is. So, 1 minute. Can you see the screen? Is the screen visible?
No.
Okay, 1 minute. I'll just share the screen properly. Here we go. Okay, here is can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is about the program of Pakiza. A lot of effort has gone into this. We are getting all the songs of Pakiza into this program. We are going to have two sections, the making of Pakiza and Pakiza the story, along with all the songs. So it'll be beset with a lot of music, a lot of images, and a lot of things which probably very few people know or remember about Pakiza, the film, and what went behind it. So this creative will come to you very quickly. Maybe by tomorrow afternoon it'll come. And the week after that, on 21st, we are having one wildlife photographer, Vipul Gupta, who's going to give us a talk on the Indian tigers of Kanha forest and what are the development works that go behind it. It'll be part of our Wikipedia, sort of Gyanpedia program banner that we have created. You know, we have the book club, we have the Guldasta Urdu, and now we have the Gyanpedia. Then on 4th of September, we're going to have an evening of Indian classical music by a lady called Neeraja Aptikar from Vancouver. She'll be singing from Vancouver, her 7 o'clock, our 7:30. And Sandeep Prakash Bide from Portland will be conducting the program. So on September 4th, we'll have a program on Indian classical music. I've yet not given the name to the program, but just remember that Indian classical music. On 11th or 14th, 11th is a Saturday, 14th is some Tuesday something, we are going to celebrate Hindi Divas. So we have Namita and Kanchan from our Guldasta Urdu group who will be celebrating Hindi Divas by bringing in an author, contemporary author. I don't remember the name, but contemporary author, very good authoress from Delhi. She'll be live and she'll be speaking to Namita and Kanchan in the program to celebrate Hindi Divas. After that, we'll be having a program on birds. Gautam, some name I forget, he's going to do a program. He's a young 34-year-old guy who's going to do a program on birds. So these are the programs that are lined up with us. Then we have one program on Sahil Ludhianvi that we have lined up around about end of September. So that will be a very deep program like the Kaifi Azmi program. I also want to take this opportunity that there are many senior members of the book club who have been donating generously to Nityasha Foundation. And I'm very, very thankful to them that this book club has brought in some very good people, and Nityasha Foundation, which works for children with type 1 diabetes, greatly appreciates the donations that are given. Lastly, I want to tell you is that as part of the Gyanadab's outreach program, we have Gyan Ruchi. In Gyan Ruchi, we work closely with the ladies in the age group of 25 to 50 from the bastis and the mohallas. We have been doing a lot of program on that. And one of the important things that has succeeded in the pandemic is teaching English. Because on online mode, we could not do much. So we took about 120 ladies. We have already got 5 teachers who take 1.5 hours per week. And we have been able to give a lot of homework to these ladies. And they are now able to speak English, communicate in English, and able to do many things in English. We've got 3 sets. One is the learner class, one is the middle, and one is the higher class. So we have got 5 teachers. I invite, if any of you would like to come forward and give your time, maybe about 1.5 hours or 2 hours per week should be sufficient. Then we can bring a group of 10 ladies and you can take the English class. We have the curriculum available. We have the teaching material available. All is stabilized. So it just needs some volunteers who can come forward and be able to, help these ladies from the mohallas and the bastis who want to learn English so that they can be better placed in life, be able to go to the bank, be able to know what's insurance, and be able to be with the children to see that they have a better future. What we have also started in Gyan Ruchi is giving the children of the Gyan Ruchi ladies classes on drawing. So we have drawing classes, which we take every Saturday. So if there are any volunteers who can come forward and teach drawing to the children, these children are in the age group of 7 to 19, school and upper high school children, they are doing drawing. And from Gyanadab, we are supplying them color pencils, crayons, and the drawing books and all. So I need some volunteers. If they come forward, then maybe you can contact Satish or me. I'm going to be putting my phone number in the chat group. My number is 9823010962. So anyway, I'll be putting that in the chat group, and I'll be putting it in the book club also. So if anybody wants to come forward, please do come forward. Please remember, all the programs you do of the book club, all the programs you do of Gyanadab are now live on Facebook. The moment this program ends, it's going to be again available on Facebook. I'll be putting the Facebook link immediately after the program in our chat groups. And remember that within 2 days, we will edit it and put it on our website, that is gyanadab.org. In the archives, all the programs of the English Book Club are there. If you have missed any, you want to go any, you send a message to me, I'll send you the link, or you can go to gyanadab.org. Everything is there. On Facebook's page of Gyanadab, all the programs are there, all the events are there. So everything is recorded. So out of the 60 odd programs that Moini has done, I think we have got about 40-45 programs on Facebook and on our website. So I hope all of this goes to make this into a more, involving everybody and enjoying. So from my side.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So
that's a very good thing that you have done. We enjoy being part of Gyan. Still continues. Go ahead, Mo.
Yes. So this is our good fortune to be associated with Gyanadab, which gives us this kind of infrastructure. Thank you so much, Farooq.
No problem.
So, good night. Good night, everyone. And see you on Saturday for Pakiza and Sunday for the book club. Good night and thank you.
So I just put the phone number. So I'll close after a minute or so. So if those who want to log off can log off, but I'll be putting the details of Nityasha Foundation in the chat group.
Give it to, put it on the
book club platform.
Yeah.
Book club,
He said he will. He said he will.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, but I'll do it. But now I've done it. Since they're on the chat group, if anybody wants to write down my number, just send me a WhatsApp message and we'll contact you.
Okay.
Then
thank you, everyone.
With your permission, we can leave.
Thank you.